Welcome to Crestron Audio Certified Technician Online. Once signals are propagated into your sound system, you have to begin the process for configuring clean input levels because just like in business, if we have garbage in, we get garbage out. This process is called sound shaping. Let's first discuss things that can and cannot be shaped in a sound system. Since all sound shaping takes place using devices that are part of the sound system, the only thing that can be shaped by it is what comes out of it. The sound that comes directly from a loudspeaker to the listener's ears is called direct sound. If the loudspeaker is equalized correctly, it contains the spectral balance of the source signal. If not, the program will not sound right to the listener. Once the sound makes it from the loudspeaker to the environment, it also produces indirect sound by reflecting off of the surfaces of the materials that make up the sound field. Early reflection and later reverberation or reverb cannot be shaped other than determining what acoustic materials were used in the space construction. Early reflections are position-dependent unique frequency rings that are found in a room. Reverb is achieved when a room supports a uniform reflection pattern throughout the sound field, producing reverberations. Reverb can be affected by temperature, humidity, and the number of occupants in a room. Anything that affects the wavelength or velocity of sound waves will affect the pattern of reverberation. In order to fix issues with indirect sound, we first have to refer to our knowledge from video 1. Using physical construction of the room, we can create a space with as little reflection as possible. After that, any adjustments must be made by shaping the direct sound coming from the loudspeaker. As we discuss this, let's start from the input side first. Remember, garbage in, garbage out. The end goal of the audio technician is to get the overall level of the sound system as close to 0 dBu RMS as possible without clipping occurring. In order to do this, we will have to adjust the input gain on the channel of the input. This leads us to the mixer. A mixer doesn't just pass sound through it, it makes it higher or lower in order to properly balance input signals. Most volume levels go from -87 to +18 dB, which gives you an 105 dBu dynamic range. Dynamic range has two parts. One is the difference between a signal voltage that does not meet the required low threshold of the input to 0 dBu, which is known as the signal-to-noise ratio. The other is the headroom. Headroom accounts for what is known in broadcasting as the crest factor of the system, which was standardized in the days of traditional television broadcasting at 20 dBu. You can determine the intensity of an input or output signal using the mixer's dBVU meter. Classic analog meters are the reason that line level audio is configured at +4 dBu, since there is a 4 dBu penalty claimed by the electrical circuitry in the mixer simply registering the level. Crestron's DSPs can be used for metering signal. In the Avia DSP line, Crestron uses what is known as full-scale ppm ballistic metering. Full-scale metering displays the dBu level of an input or output with 0 dBu as the absolute highest value. ppm metering uses a visual indicator to hold signal peaks which would otherwise be too quick for the human eye to process and the human body to adjust for. Some things that should be taken into consideration for this are the elements of gain structure on a sound system. Not every component in a sound system has the same range, so to account for this, the technician working with an engineer will need to adjust the input and output levels of each piece of gear to create as close to a 0 dBu absolute as possible, while preserving the largest amount of dynamic range as possible. Once that input channel is confirmed, we can begin to look at effects and processing. Effects processing is used to configure your sound's input tone, timbre, and intensity. The Crestron DSP series offers a range of built-in effects for the configuring technician to use. There are compressors to modulate the input signal. By compressing the signal, the DSP creates a tight range of signals with a tighter ratio of peaks to valleys, which increases the overall RMS level of the signal. This is also known as lowering the crest factor of the system. Knowing the size and dimensions of your room determines where you place your speakers. Speaker placement is not a definitive absolute. Depending on the physical construction of the room and the placement of the speakers, some rooms generate early reflections that can be eliminated by using the equalizer to shape the sound coming from the loudspeaker. Equalization can provide what is known as a flat response in a sound field. A flat response gets its name from the visual wave characteristics of the room. When EQing, It is customary to use a special microphone to record the acoustics and display them on a frequency graphic display. This mic is called an RTA mic. The built-in sound analyzer in the DSP will show you the room's reverberance. By increasing or decreasing specific frequencies with an EQ, this can be set to as close as flat as possible. Some of the other things that a technician may use to affect a sound are known as mutual coupling and fractional space loading. Mutual coupling is the act of grouping together loudspeakers. Once grouped, the wavelength bass tones overlap the sum by +6 dB. To overemphasize bass tones, multiple enclosures can be grouped together. Fractional space loading uses reflective surfaces to give the detectable and perceivable doubling of speakers. The four methods of fractional space loading are whole space with no adjacent surfaces, which results in 0 dB gain. Half space, which is one adjacent surface, which results in +6 dB gain. Quarter space is two adjacent surfaces, which results in +12 dB. And eighth space, three adjacent surfaces, which results in +18 dB. Both mutual coupling and fractional space loading results in a +6 dB in the bass range and 3 dB boost in the mid-range. Thank you for watching.